Okay, good morning. I'm Hang Leito, the chair of the Professional Fiduciary Bureau Advisory Committee. I'm calling this meeting to order at 11 a.m. This meeting is being held on Wednesday, January 9th, 2019, at the Department of Consumer Affairs located at 1747 North Market Boulevard, Sacramento, California 95834. This location is open to the public and accessible according to the American Disabilities Art Standards. So now we go to the item number 2. At this time, I would like to ask Angela to call roll to establish a quorum.
Good morning. So I'm going to go ahead and call the roll. Hang Leito,
Present.
Kathleen Thompson,
Present.
Wendy Hatch,
Present.
Jim Moore,
Present.
and Eileen Federizo and King G are absent. With 4 members present, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Angela. Item number 3. I would like to welcome our newly appointed committee members, Wendy Hatch, Jim Moore. I also would like to welcome back Kathleen Thompson, who has been reappointed for another term. I would like to ask the committee members and bureau staff to introduce themselves.
I'm Angela Quadra, the program analyst.
Fred Chanyu, DCA Legal.
Rebecca May, Bureau Chief.
I'm Han To from San Francisco Labor Council.
Kathleen Thompson, Supervising Court Investigator from Solano County.
Wendy Hatch, Private Professional Fiduciary from Long Beach.
Jim Moore, Private Professional Fiduciary from Sacramento.
Would any members of the public would like to introduce themselves? No? Thank you. So now item number 4. Rebecca, please read the Bureau's mission statement.
To protect consumers through licensing, education, and enforcement of the Professional Fiduciaries Act by promoting and upholding competency and ethical standards across the profession.
Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment? Thank you, Rebecca. So now we are at the item number 5. Are there any suggested edits to the November minutes, the November meeting minutes from the committee members? Is there a motion to approve the minute?
Kathleen Thompson, I make a motion to approve the committee meeting minutes from November 7th, 2018.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Any discussions from the committee members? Any public comment?
Just for the record, the 2 people that made the motion and seconded the motion were not present at the last meeting, so I don't know how they know that these minutes are reflective of what happened.
Okay, thank you. Angela, please do a vote by a roll call.
Okay, yes vote will be to approve the minutes as written to be posted to the website. Hang Leito,
Yes.
Kathleen Thompson,
Yes.
Wendy Hatch,
Yes.
Jim Moore,
Yes.
and again, Eileen Federizo and King G are absent from this meeting, but with 4 votes, the motion is carried and the minutes will be posted to the website.
Thank you, Angela. Item number 6, I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs executive staff to present their update.
Good morning, everyone. Karen Nelson, Assistant Deputy Director with DCA's Board and Bureau Services. Chair Toe, Vice Chair Thompson, Chief May, members. Thank you for this opportunity for us to provide a brief update to the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. And just wanted to start off to highlight some things that we had done in 2018. So this past year, we convened 9 licensing and enforcement work group meetings, 3 substance abuse coordination committee meetings, 4 directors quarterly, and 2 directors, board member, and advisory committee leadership teleconferences. These activities not only brought all of our boards and bureaus together to promote dialogue, but also to promote some collaboration to further our mission in protecting consumers. Wanted to thank Chief May and some of the members who have participated in these gatherings. We do appreciate your support and participation in those. And following the same vein of 2018, wanted to let the members know that DCA's annual report is now posted online. This report contains statistical and financial record of the work the department and its 37 boards and bureaus have achieved over the year. And when you have a moment, I do invite you all to go to the DCA website and take a look at this document. It is a great resource to learn more about DCA as a department as a whole, and also your bureau and how other programs are faring in DCA. Especially with our new members on board, Ms. Hatch, Mr. Moore, welcome to the Bureau, as well as to the DCA family. I wanted to also congratulate, as Chair Toe had mentioned before, Ms. Thompson for being reappointed to the Bureau Advisory Committee. So with regard to that, we do have some required board member trainings. One is the board member orientation training, and the dates are now available for the 2019 offerings. And as a reminder, this training is required within 1 year of appointment or reappointment to a board or bureau. And this is a one-day training in Sacramento, and actually this year we have a new offering in Southern California, and I'll go over that in just a moment. But it details important functions and responsibilities as members. So the dates are March 27th, June 19th, and that is the one that we will be offering in Southern California, and October 23rd. I see you all writing feverishly. We'll make sure to send these dates over to the Bureau and make sure that they are sent to you all. So the other thing, 2019 is a mandatory sexual harassment prevention training year for the Department of Consumer Affairs. And this means that all employees and members are required to complete this training in 2019, even if it was completed last year. This training is online, interactive, and can be completed at your convenience. And if you have any questions with regard to this training or any of the trainings during your tenure, please feel free to contact our office for assistance. And that does conclude our update for today. And as always, thank you for your good work and your service. I'll take any questions if you have any at this time.
Any comment from the committee members? No. Any public comment? Thank you, Ms. Nelson.
Thank you.
Item number 7, I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office to present the budget update.
Good morning, Chairman Toe, Chief May, and council members. My name is Paul McDermott. I'm the current budget analyst for the Professional Fiduciary Bureau. I'm from the Department of Consumer Affairs. Before I dive into any of the documents, I just want to give you a quick synopsis of what we do at the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Budget's Office. And what we do is we facilitate your annual budget. We do it in a manner where if there's any changes, any alterations, anything that has to be legally done to your budget, we manage our bureaus and our boards and our programs so that it's done in a proper manner. We've been working on that over the last fall, and we're getting ready to release some information. So the governor's budget will be released tomorrow, Jan 10 budget. So once that's released, we'll have more updated numbers for you. As of today, we just have some budget allotment and some current figures. So quickly, what we do at the budget office is we whittle down what you do, what the Bureau does into two things, in your revenues and your expenditures. In other words, like any business, what's coming in, what's going out. And if you look at your expenditure report, in your packet there, we have what we did last time. There hasn't been much changes since the last time we reported. It's a document that looks like this here. We did a 3-year average of what has been going on, and if you look at the 3-year average, everything is pretty much solid as it's gone back through. And then I updated to 1/7/2019 of what has been spent to date. Now, with our current software system, we have a little bit of lag on what we're able to extract out of the system. So you'll notice in your percentiles, it's reporting about a 30% percentile at the halfway mark through the year. So those numbers will change again. But I can sit in front of you when we talk about projecting budgets. I can say with a high degree of certainty, under the leadership of Chief May and the members of the Bureau, that they are fiscally responsible with the monies that they are entrusted, and that the account and the budget is in solid shape. And if you look at it, nothing has really changed. So we say that, hey, they're doing a good job. And as the great prognosticator Nishimini once said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Anybody have any questions for me?
Kathleen Thompson, I'm just curious, evidence witness fee, that's assuming that there's a case that goes to the Attorney General's office?
Yeah, so on the fees there, we follow what the funds are as they come in. We don't have any control over what comes into them as a case to be reported or passed on to the Attorney General. So once that has become a ticket item for us, that's when we see it. So they'll either handle it through the Attorney General, or they'll do it through the Office of Administrating Hearings, to the Administrating Hearing Judge.
Okay.
And that will fluctuate from year to year.
Any other comment from the committee members?
Kathleen Thompson, exam supplies, you have it listed for 2015, 2017, but not under 2018-19?
Yeah, that comes in as we talk to them, as we talk to the Bureau, what they have, what they need for that year. So it's a collaboration with the Bureau, what they are doing. So some things will be listed one year and not the other, depending on what they need for that year.
Okay.
Okay, any public comment? Okay, thank you, Mr. Donnet. Item number 8. I would like to invite the Department of Consumer Affairs Legislative Review Office to present the legislative update.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Millington. I am an analyst with the Department of Consumer Affairs Legislative Review Division. I'm here to give you a little bit of a legislative update. The first thing I'll say is that the legislature has recently reconvened. We're at the end of what you could call the off session, so there won't be a whole lot to discuss, a lot of new matter to discuss in this update. The first thing I'd like to do is to give a little rundown of deadlines and important dates that are upcoming. Previously, on December 3rd, the legislature convened its current 2-year session, so it's the beginning of a 2-year session. On January 1st, all previously passed statutes were to take effect unless otherwise noted. On January 7th, the legislature reconvened from a short winter break. On January 10th, the budget must be submitted to the governor. On February 2nd, that is the deadline to submit new bills for this legislative year. And April 26th is the last day for policy committees in the House in which the legislation is constructed to have that legislation heard in front of policy committees. And that date is also the deadline for any bills with a fiscal impact to be assigned to the appropriate fiscal committee. Are there any questions about the legislative schedule? All right, I'll move on to the next part. I have two bills from last year to discuss. The first one is SB 931. I know this bill has been discussed at previous meetings, but I think there was a request for some clarification on it. This bill authorizes the initiation of conservatorship proceedings of a person transferred from a county jail to a specified mental health facility for 72-hour evaluation and treatment upon a recommendation to a conservatorship investigator or the appropriate county. This bill also prohibits a conservatorship investigator from failing to schedule an investigation based upon the custody status of a person subject to such investigation. And I believe that there were lingering questions as to whether or not this applied in the case of LPS conservatorships, and it does. I took a look at the legislation, and it refers to both sections 5150 and 5250. Are there any further questions about SB 931? All right, and secondly, SB 1191. There were questions at the last meeting about the nature of this bill. What this bill does is requires local law enforcement agencies and long-term care ombudsman programs to revise or include in their existing policy manuals, upon their next scheduled revision, specified information regarding elder and dependent adult abuse. For the purposes of this statute, that is the statute affected by SB 1191, local law enforcement agency means every municipal police department and county sheriff's department. And to give a little bit of clarification on this, what this bill is requiring is that in the guiding policy documents, that there be included information about the elements of specific elder abuse and dependent adult crimes. And it also specifies that certain enforcement agencies have the authority to, I guess for lack of a better word, investigate those cases. It would require any agency that falls under this to make changes to their policy manuals, so if they don't include the necessary elder abuse information, that upon the next review, they have to put it in there. Are there any questions about SB 1191?
Kathleen Thompson, as I understand it, that impacts or cover is under Penal Code 368.5, is that correct?
The changes in SB?
The changes, yes.
Pull it up here real quick. Yes, SB 1191 makes changes to section 368.5 of the Penal Code.
Of the Penal Code, all right, thank you.
Any other comment from the committee members? Any public comment?
Yes, I just wanted to draw attention to a court ruling last week in Las Vegas. April Parks, who is a professional conservator fiduciary in Nevada, was convicted, sentenced to 16 to 40 years in
Can you
prison.
introduce your name
Oh,
first?
sorry.
Sorry.
Linda
Ma'am.
Kincaid, Libertas News. April Parks was convicted to 16 to 40 years.
I'm
Now,
sorry.
No. It's okay.
It's okay.
She's not in California.
Yeah,
We're talking another state. Now, the
okay.
way it ties in here is California is now developing policy to encourage law enforcement to investigate and prosecute crimes against elders and dependent adults in California, So going forward, we may actually see some enforcement action in California like there was over the last few years in Nevada with April Parks. And I think your licensees might be very concerned about that eventuality.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Millington.
All right, thank you very much.
Item number 9. Rebecca, please present the Bureau updates.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Toe. So we have a couple of updates today to share with you, if you want to follow along in your packets. I'll start with the application, licensing, and enforcement statistics. And I said I would start along with that, but I think I'm shy. Can I get yours? All right, technical difficulties. I apologize for that. So our licensing statistics, this is information as of December 31st, 2018. We have from the start of the fiscal year to the end of the year for 2018, 36 new licensees and 58 new applications. And as a snapshot in time for December 31st, 2018, we had 745 active licenses and 1,087 total licensees since the Bureau's inception. Moving on to complaint statistics, same data point, December 31st, 2018. From the start of the fiscal year to that point in time, we initiated 2 cases with the Attorney General. We issued 5 citations. We received 53 complaints. We closed 33 complaints. The complaints pending as of the 31st were 40, and our average time for closing complaints was 76 days. So moving on to the second point, there was a question at the November meeting of asking to clarify some of our licensing numbers. And as I pointed out a moment ago, the information that we provided is for new licenses and applications is from the start of the fiscal year to this particular point in time, which was for November, it was at the end of October. And then for the active licensees and total licensees, that was just a snapshot in time on that date. So hopefully that answers that question. For outreach events, we have not had any since our last advisory committee meeting, but we've got one coming up in March in Reading, the 4th Annual Senior and Veteran Fraud Prevention Fair, partnering with the Shasta County District Attorney's Office. And Angie will kindly be going up there for us. The newsletter. So I've got a draft almost ready to send over to the legal unit for their review. Once they sign off, it'll go to the department's publications division for formatting and general beautification purposes. Once that's completed, we'll post it up on our website and send out a notification to our interested parties list. As always, if there is a topic you want to see addressed in the newsletter, just drop us an email. And if any of our advisory committee members, especially our new ones, want to contribute an article or have suggestions for the newsletters, you're very welcome to do so. Just let me know. So moving on to the next item. For the complaint process, so we've received some inquiries about the Bureau's complaint process. So I thought providing a very basic run-through of our process would be helpful. The Bureau is mandated by law to review each and every single complaint that we receive, and I assure you we take this mandate very seriously. Complaints can come in a variety of methods via phone, mail, fax, email, and can come from a variety of sources, including consumers, other professional fiduciaries, concerned members of the public, etc. The reasons complaints are submitted run the gamut, but they usually allege poor management of a person's care or estate or poor delivery of services. Due to the potential complexity of investigating and determining violations of the Professional Fiduciaries Act, the time frame for determining the outcome of complaints varies. If a complaint falls outside of our jurisdiction, we notify the complainant as soon as possible and refer them to the appropriate investigative agency. Complaint information is private, meaning it's not subject to public disclosure, and we're careful to honor the privacy of both the complainants and the professional fiduciaries. However, if we take administrative or disciplinary action against a licensee, that information is subject to public disclosure, and we post it on our website. Enforcement actions can include, but are not limited to, citations, fines, letters of reprimand for lesser violations, or probation or revocation of a license for more serious violations. For more serious violations, our office partners with the Attorney General's office to bring forward an accusation, and all licensees are entitled to due process as it relates to the enforcement process. It bears noting that the Bureau has the authority to take action against a professional fiduciary's license for violations of the Professional Fiduciaries Act. Our office does not have jurisdiction over the probate court and cannot remove a conservator, trustee, agent under durable power of attorney, guardian, or personal representative, nor can we alter the terms of a trust or a conservatorship. In these scenarios, we always recommend that a complainant consult an attorney to discuss their options. Complaints alleging criminal activity, such as theft or elder abuse, should be reported to law enforcement or adult protective services. We are also in the process right now of revamping our website to make the complaint process a bit clearer to the public and to our licensees. And though we're not able to engage in a back and forth about complaints, specific complaints, or our process for conducting investigations, I'd be happy to field, general comments about the process when we go to public comment. So one more item before we go to public comment, and of course questions from the advisory committee, is a clarification of the DCA mediation website. So there was a question posed at the last meeting in November asking why the Bureau was not utilizing a mediation program offered by the department. This program did not sound familiar to me, so our staff did some digging, and we confirmed with the department that it does not offer any sort of mediation program. The department provides a website that lists local mediation programs that may be of use to consumers, and it's typically run at the local level by the counties, but they are not affiliated with or endorsed by the department. So, are there any questions from the advisory committee?
Hi, Kathleen Thompson. Refresh my memory. If you add new licenses and active licenses, it doesn't come up with the total licenses. So what is that difference? Is that retired licensees, or what does that represent?
So the new licensees are, it reflects the number of people that were licensed between July 1, the start of the fiscal the year, and December 31st.
But
So that's the number.
Okay, but for the total licenses, what does that number represent? Because it doesn't, if you add up new licenses and active licenses, it doesn't come up with total licenses. So where's that difference?
The total licenses is just a snapshot in time for December 31st. So like January 1, the number could be different because sometimes people are, they have, their license wasn't renewed on time, or so the numbers don't generally add up perfectly.
If I may, the total licensees, that includes that were licensed since the inception to the end of December, but that also includes licenses that have been canceled, are delinquent, some are deceased, that would be the other, or suspended, revoked. It includes every single license issued. no matter what the status.
From the date of inception. So we
Correct.
can assume, based on that number, that you've had 1,087 licensed fiduciaries at one point. Okay. And if you're retired but still maintaining your license, you have to pay the renewal fee, is that correct? And that would be captured in that total as well?
Yes.
Is that considered active licenses, or that's a different category?
Right now, we're working on regulations for retired and inactive licenses, but at the moment, we don't offer that specific license type.
So where are those,
We're either-
where are the
we're either-
retirees?
They're in there. It's either an active license or a delinquent license or a canceled license.
Okay. The letter of reprimand, is that, that's posted on the website under the person's license or under their name?
We
How-
have an actions page, and it's listed by year, all the enforcement and disciplinary actions that we've taken per year.
If I go to, though, a specific license and a specific person, is that letter of reprimand going to be under that person's name?
Yes.
How long does that stay on their record?
It's permanent.
Okay.
There's no mechanism for us to remove it, or no statutory authority for us to remove it.
Okay. And does everyone that files a complaint, do they get some type of feedback or a letter or a callback saying this is what happened?
Everyone gets a letter
Okay.
acknowledging that we received their complaint, and the complaint is assigned to an investigator within 5 days.
Do they get, though, some type of letter saying that the complaint's been closed?
I think it depends on the complaint itself. Sometimes we'll ask, like if we ask for additional information and the complainant stops responding, then we might not send a letter. But if there's, a full-on investigation, then we usually send a letter saying, the outcome.
If there's been a finding now that there's no wrongdoing, there's nothing to pursue, do they get a letter saying that the case is closed or the investigation is closed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment from the committee members? Any public comment? Please make sure you state your name.
Madam Chair, they're not obligated to
Oh,
do
they're
so.
obligated
I mean,
to,
they can
okay.
if they
Yeah,
so desire,
okay.
but they're not
Obligated.
under any obligation to do so.
Richard Calhoun with Cedar. I'm a numbers person. I'm still a little confused on the numbers. I'm looking online at your minutes, and on June 30th, 2018, you said that you had 1,052 total licensees. On the handout today for this meeting, you said you had 36 new licenses since July 1st, the start of the fiscal year. If I add those two numbers together, I get 1,088, but yet your graph shows 1,087. What happened to the missing licensee?
Yeah, I would have to look at the June
This is the
minutes.
second time in a row your numbers do not add up. It would be nice if they added up. Talking about complaints, I went to the DCA's website, and they have complaints filed by the public there, going back from 2017, 16, and 15. And for 3 years, there was 408 complaints filed by the public. Exactly 0 complaints resulted in any disciplinary action. I'm sorry, I don't buy those numbers. You do not get 408 complaints from the public and not one be a violation. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. You have 20% of your members getting a complaint on an annual basis. I'm a real estate agent. If 20% of the real estate agents had a complaint, the department would be buried. There is something very wrong, and this Bureau appears to be in denial. On the complaint process, I want to see if I understand this right. If I turn in a complaint and it's a crime, blatant crime, black and white, say perjury, that is outside the scope of the Bureau because it's a crime and it goes to the law enforcement. And if law enforcement doesn't do anything about it, the Bureau won't take any disciplinary action. Is that correct? That's what I'm hearing, and that is wrong. The Bureau should be taking disciplinary action for crimes based on their disciplinary process, not on their criminal. They require different levels of evidence. You should not be saying something is a crime, therefore it's outside the jurisdiction. In fact, one of the code of ethics is that a professional fiduciary has to follow all the laws of the land. One of the laws of the land is they don't commit perjury. This Bureau seems to be saying, oh, this is a crime. It's outside the scope of the Bureau. You got to go get law enforcement. It doesn't work that way. Regulation of the Bureau should be separate from crime, yes. I'm not asking this Bureau to do criminal investigation. I'm asking them to investigate the wrongdoings of the person. And if the wrongdoings of the persons are so bad that they elevate up to crime, the Bureau says, oh, we don't have to do that. Go ahead and do whatever you want, Mr. Fiduciary. And I mean, I can go on. I've done public records requests of your annual statements. Those are submitted under perjury. I asked this department, what kind of investigation do they do to see if the information is correct? The response I got, well, of course it's correct. They're submitted under penalty of perjury. Well, guess what? You redact everything, making it difficult. So I went back to the LA Times, which is why this department exists, and took a couple of the people that were in that paper. And I won't mention the names out of respect, even though I think that's garbage. And these people listed 3 new crimes appointed by the court, 2 new cases, other new cases not appointed by the court. That was on their annual statement. I went through 1 court they submit cases in, LA County. I found 10 cases assigned during that fiscal year and 11 that weren't assigned by the court potentially. They underreported by a factor of 7, yet this Bureau does nothing. There is a huge problem. This Bureau needs to wake up and do something because the professional fiduciaries in this state are out of control. And on light of that, I would encourage them all to show up in Berkeley. There's going to be a showing of the Guardians. It's only a matter of time before that happens right here in California, and you guys are complacent in it. Thank you.
I'd like to take a quick look at your graph here on complaint statistics. And so this is for last fiscal year. In this average days to close, is that including complaints that are still open from 2017? How are those being addressed?
So it does sometimes blend over from the last year. If a complaint is closed in the fiscal year 2018-19, which was opened in 17, it would include those days. So it's inclusive of complaints, all the complaints that have been closed since the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay, because I am aware of one from 2017 that is still languishing on the shelf somewhere. And I have one of my own from June that I haven't had any response on. And I know I can't give names or anything, but I would like to hand over some additional information. I've written 2 more articles. One of them establishes perjury. One of them establishes false imprisonment and isolation, which are abuse. The next in the series will establish conspiracy. That leads me to my own concerns, and I may be able to answer some questions. This gentleman asked about how does the Bureau handle crimes, even established crimes. And I believe I have a number of letters back from Ms. May here telling me that those are not violations of the license. See, I've reported in various cases that I've investigated false imprisonment, isolation, mental abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, perjury, and one that I haven't investigated yet, but I think you have in your files, is wrongful death. And all of those came back. Not only were they not violations of the license, but at least in mine, false imprisonment, isolation, mental abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, and perjury, the letters came back that these were in the best interest of the conservatee. And I would like some clarification on how your investigators are determining that false imprisonment, isolation, mental abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, and perjury, and potentially wrongful death are in the best interest of the conservatee. My brain is short-circuiting on this concept, and I need you to help me understand how your investigators make this determination.
We can't speak to particular complaints in this forum.
No, this isn't one. This is a series that I sent you.
If individuals are convicted of these crimes, that's certainly information that might have bearing, but I can't get into the details of how we conduct our
Okay, so what you're
investigations.
telling me is that you wait for police to do an investigation, you wait for a DA to prosecute, you wait for a conviction, like finally happened after 4 years in Las Vegas with April Parks, and if you had a similar situation here, 4 years down the road, when there is that conviction, 16 to 40 years in prison, then you would come back and evaluate whether that's something that you might want to look at and perhaps discipline that licensee while they're
It's-
serving the
Chief May,
prison.
since this question does require a more specific answer as to the investigatory practices of the Bureau, I would advise not to answer that question.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe next time I'll bring along the letters that I have back saying that false imprisonment, isolation, mental abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, and perjury were all in the best interest of the conservatee, and I'll be happy to bring those letters for you. But for right now, I'll just hand over my most recent 2 articles on the case in Oakland, which, like I said, I submitted in June, I think it was. I'm still waiting for a response on that one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we are at the item number 10. Rebecca, please present the status of proposed rule makings.
So unfortunately, I don't have a new update to these 4 proposed regulations then from our last meeting in November. These 4 regulations are under the pre-review process with the Department of Consumer Affairs. Bureau staff and I are working really closely with our legal counsel to ensure that these proposals conform to current law and are always checking in on the status. And I promise as soon as anything starts to move, I will let you know.
Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment?
Richard Calhoun with Cedar, if this is an advisory committee and it advises the Bureau, and if the Bureau is able to propose regulations like it did in these 4 cases, I suggest clarifications and some proposals. If information is public, okay, i.e. any available court website, that it should not have to be redacted by the state of California's Bureau of Professional Fiduciaries. I understand right now that is what the law says, but let's put in a proposal of changing the rules and regulations, just like you did on these 4, that if the information is public, this department no longer has to redact that public information, because that is absurd to take the time to redact public information. Likewise, let's get clarification that this department has the authorization to discipline licensees when they do things that aren't so outrageous that they're criminal, but they don't lose that authorization to discipline them when their behavior is so outrageous it becomes criminal. That's absurd. You're saying I can break the law a little bit, well, I can do something wrong a little bit, but not break the law and get in trouble for it. But if I break something really wrong so that I've now broken the law, I won't get disciplined for it. That's back-asswards. So if you're able to propose new legislation, new regulations, let's propose something that protects people. You read the mission statement every single meeting telling you you're protecting the consumer. Start protecting the consumer.
Thank you. Now we are at the item number 11. Angela, what items have you recorded for our future meeting today, as a future meeting items?
I have not recorded any items that were suggested for the future meetings.
Are there any other items from the committee members would like to add? No? Is there any public comment?
I'm confused again. Richard Calhoun Cedar, I was just up here saying, let's discuss future regulation. And then I hear there's nothing agendized for the next meeting. This committee can't discuss things that they're not agendized. Let's agendize and start disciplining your out-of-control licensees.
Thank you. Item number 12. The following days have been selected and scheduled for 2019. If you have a conflict with any of these days, please contact Angela Corta, May 29, 2019, Wednesday, August 14, 2019, Wednesday, November 13, 2019. Any comment from the committee members? Any public comment?
Yeah, Linda Kincaid, Libertas Media. I submitted a question by email that hasn't been answered, and perhaps you can answer it now. Two questions, actually. Will there be other meetings at other locations going forward, or have those been discontinued, would be part one of the question. And part two is, were those other locations discontinued to diminish the negative public comment that you got for the first time ever at the last meeting? So the timing was a little coincidental.
Since we have a new makeup of the committee, we have just some logistical issues to work out with having teleconference locations. Certainly, we're going to base our meetings in Sacramento moving forward, and we may incorporate teleconference meetings in the future again.
Okay, so we don't know if there'll be an opportunity for people in Southern California to participate in the future.
I'll probably know more as we get to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, is this on? Dr. Tracy Montez, Division Chief of Programs and Policy Review for the department, and I've heard at the last couple meetings, again, some concerns with enforcement cases. And so I would just, again, recommend that the individuals that have expressed concerns to really look at the statutory requirements of the profession and to submit to the advisory committee suggestions of perhaps how things could be changed, regulations and so forth, that would provide greater consumer protection. The advisory committee and Bureau staff is confined by the statutes and the regulations and cannot expand those unless action is taken. But certainly, if we see gaps in consumer protection, the department is willing, obviously, to consider how we can better serve our clients, patients, customers, and so forth. But we do need very specific direction from stakeholder groups and others who have that day-to-day experience and see things that sometimes we, aren't aware of. And again, we have to work within our purviews, our legal mandates, but we are certainly open to suggestions. So with moving forward with the new year and our new advisory committee members, welcome. Again, we're very open to feedback and appreciate the work and the feedback that we receive. So thank you.
Richard Calhoun with Cedar. The purpose of an advisory committee is for the public to come in and give our input, not to keep it secret in emails that get ignored. That is the purpose of this meeting. I've made suggestions in this meeting in the past. I made suggestions today. You heard they weren't even agendized. You guys are trying to keep everything under the cover. It's a public agency, public meetings. Let's have the debate in public. I've pointed out that it's absurd that you say that if a licensee breaks the law, you can't discipline them. But if they come up but don't cross the line, you can discipline them. So if I'm really bad, I don't get in any trouble. If I'm only a little bad, I may get in trouble. But out of 408 complaints, 0 had any discipline. There's a huge disconnect.
Okay, thank you. So now we are on the item number 13. The committee would like to briefly address public comment on items not on the agenda. The public comment for items not on the agenda section is a time for the public to comment on items that are not listed today onto the agenda. To allow the committee sufficient time to conduct its full schedule of business, public comment will be limited to 2 minutes apiece. There are a few other rules that apply. First, California law prohibits committee members from discussing or commenting on any matter brought up during public comment for items not on the agenda. Also, committee members are not allowed to take action on any item not on the agenda. If you want the committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you may ask the committee to consider placing that issues on the agenda of a future meeting. However, the committee is not obligated to fulfill that request. If you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charge pending before the Bureau, or if you are about to bring a complaint to the Bureau's attention, please do not discuss the detail of your case or complaint. That's because the Bureau's counsel reviews disciplinary cases and is not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. The committee strongly asks that you also respect the privacy of others by not reviewing the names and conditions of any individual involved in any case or complaint. In order to allow the committee sufficient time to conduct its full schedule of business, please do not duplicate or repeat the comments of a previous speaker. At this time, are there any members of the public who wish to address the committee or to offer an agenda item for the future meeting?
Linda Kincaid with Libertas Media. There is a documentary film that came out last year called The Guardians, and I would highly recommend that this group watch it either individually or as a group and have some discussion of the content of the film and the implications for the industry and your own management of your licensees. The documentary, The Guardians, chronicles these cases in Las Vegas that we talked about, the ones where April Parks and her cohorts were sentenced to numerous years in prison just last week. There's going to be a private screening in the Alameda County Board of Supervisors chambers on Friday morning, with a panel discussion following. If any of you wanted to go to Alameda County, Oakland, and watch the film, I'm sure we could arrange to get you a seat in there. It's also going to be shown at the South Berkeley Senior Center on Sunday afternoon. And then it's available to buy DVDs and Blu-rays. You can get your own copy as of January 15th. And I think it would be very educational, very informative, and it might help to drive some of your motivation to make the changes that need to be made here.
Thank you. So we can. Okay, thank you to all, and thank you to all the committee members. The meeting is adjourned at 11:53.